Good morning, YouTube. How you guys feel out there? It's Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. Listen, I don't know if y'all paid attention or y'all really knew. The mayor of Dearborn refused to meet with the Joe Biden administration. If you're not from Michigan, you probably don't know that Dearborn, Michigan is the largest Arab population in the country. Most of them are from Lebanon, Iraq, Jordan. You know what I mean? It's a very, very large Arab community. And he flat out said that he don't want to talk to the Biden administration unless they come in with some type of real solutions. See, the Arabs over there in Dearborn, they say they want something for their vote, or they won't vote for Biden or that administration. We won't even talk to him unless he coming in the door talking. Hold on a minute. Yeah, they want something for their vote. Arabs, they have more unity, more sense of community in Dearborn. So that mayor says he got to get something for his vote over there because they're not going to vote for him. And it's over 300,000 voters over there. You know what I mean? They said last election that Trump lost Michigan by 134,000 votes. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you want. I don't believe he won Michigan like he said. For real, for real. Considering the demographics and what was going on at the time of the election. You know, they slid in all those absentee ballots because of the pandemic. But I want you to look. I'm trying to think what I'm going to show you first. I'm going to show you Joy Reid when Joy Reid tried to interview him and see why he wouldn't meet with the Biden administration. It's for fair use of the 1976 Copyright Act for commentary and educational purposes. Check out Joy Reid, the Democratic Shield.
His name right, Abdullah Hamid. So, Mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, Abdullah Hamid, interview discussing why he turned down the meeting with the Biden manager. So, we're taking a little bit of a step back because I told you that the manager reached out for a meeting, but not Joe Biden himself. And that's very telling.
Joining me now is the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, Abdullah Hamid. And Mayor Hamid, thank you so much for being here. So just to set the stage for our audience to understand, about 54% of the population of your city, Dearborn, is Arab American. About 3/4 of Dearborn voters supported Biden in 2020. He got more than 30,000 votes from Dearborn alone. Give me the temperature of how people are feeling. We know there were protests when President Biden visited today, but what's the temperature of your community right now regarding the election?
Thank you for having me on. I think the word that I often hear most frequently from my residents is betrayal. We were promised a president who wanted to bring back good moral conscience to the White House, to bring back decency. And what we found with the ongoing genocide is a president who is aiding, abetting, defending, and funding the genocide of the Palestinian people. You know, I had a resident who came to a council meeting who has now lost over 80 family members. So my message to the president is, what would you tell that individual?
So
Let me pause here for a second.
Let me pause too. He from Dearborn, and he's the mayor, and Arab, right? He says that the Biden administration betrayed them. So if he betrayed them, you already know what he did to us. Oh, by the way, y'all like my outfit? I like my outfit. If you know what I know, you better get you one. Let's continue.
So I don't know. I know, guys. I know. Pittsburgh dude says simple jack hair. I don't know what's the deal with the hair cut. I don't usually come after people hair, but Joy, honey, from woman. Look. Let me tell you something. Look, we all have had our hair mishaps. We all have. Okay. But from
Y'all remember I did the reaction to them other sisters videos? Uh, popping politics. They went at Joy Reid here too. They don't like her hat either. They just sit there like a little yellow koofy cap.
black woman to black woman, You know that's not cutting it. I don't know who gave you the thumbs up on the do, but and my hair is not perfect. So I'm not sitting here trying to say my hair is perfect, but Joy, come on. We know. We know that's not cutting it. Anywho, notice that he's saying again, like, why would you want to send like the campaign manager, but you're not actually willing to have the discussion yourself? And that's very revealing. It's like you are.
No, Joe Biden don't want to go out there to Dearborn and talk to them Arabs. What are you gonna tell them? They're not going for the last because they know what's happening with their people. Didn't you hear him say that it's people in his community who have lost 80 family members over there so far? What is he going to say to them? And that population in Dearborn, he's going to need that population. You know what I mean? And I don't think that he's going to even be able to win Detroit. Detroit is tired of the Democratic policies as it relates to us. You got a lot of old uh, baby boomers and, people that's wrapped up in the church. And most of those people that wrapped up in the church, they wrapped up in the hypocrisy and the debauchery within the church system. You know what I mean? They really are what the Democratic Party wants. You know what I mean? People playing righteous, but really practicing wickedness and debauchery just like them. That's what's happening in the church. That's why they won't let go of the Democratic Party. You know what I mean? Because the Democratic Party plays as if they all so holy and care about people. But look at what they doing. And he's saying that he don't even want to talk to him. I'm gonna show you another clip of just him talking, but I wanted to show you Joy Reid, little sneaky butt, trying to get him to say something, trying to get him to act like it's a chance they're gonna vote for Biden.
Responsible for the death of a lot of thousands of Palestinian people because you gave Israel the weapons to do so, which I firmly believe that Israel would not have been able to kill as many Palestinians as they did if it were not for the weapons that were sent from the United States. I really do believe that. Okay? So, what do you expect him to say, Joy? How do you expect him to feel? And honestly, African Americans, we need to be taking the same stance that he's taken.
Facts.
He said Joe Biden made a promise to the people in my community, and now he's going against that promise. So you see how they all came together and decided to do an abandoned Joe Biden campaign? Black people, we need to do the same thing. This is what I don't understand. People are up here cheering and chanting and saying, Joe Biden won South Carolina Democratic primary by like 97%. Bruh, 4% turnout. 4% turnout. And it was, and it's just to me, like, just to chuckle it up and go support this guy who abandoned the promises that he made to us too. Lessons to be learned.
You, I know, previously turned down the Biden campaign wanted to meet with you. You did not meet with them. Would you meet with them? Do you think it would be helpful for you to deliver that message in person?
I turned down a meeting with the campaign manager because I don't believe that this is a moment for electoral politics. Over the course of, going on close to 120 days now, over 27,000 Palestinians have been killed. These are innocent men, women, and children. Over 2 million have been displaced. And so for us, Palestinian lives should not be measured in poll numbers. If there is a delegation of policymakers, of decision makers that would like to heed the concerns of this community to talk about a change of course, that is a meeting that we're willing to take.
And this is exactly what we should have done after George Floyd. We didn't. Roger Meadows always tells me like there's a moment within that movement. And I said this before, back then we missed our moment. We had a movement, but we missed our moment to actually get concessions from it. So we didn't get any concessions. So here you have the Arab community from Dearborn, Michigan, again, largest Arab community in the country. They are willing to withhold their vote unless they get the concessions that they're asking for. I think everybody should do that. Every group should do that, whatever group you're part of. If you're not getting any type of tangibles from the politicians that you have voted for, I think every community should get together, make their demands, and tell these politicians you're not going to support them without any concessions. Oh, and here's the kicker. The concessions actually need to happen before election day. No more promises. No more we promise we're going to do this for you.
So let's talk about some of the policy changes. I sat in on The Economist did a sort of briefing today about this plan that is apparently sort of working behind the scenes, that there's a lot of conversation in the administration about how aggressively to sort of change course or alter the course of what's happening in the Middle East, potentially recognizing a Palestinian state. You've had the Biden administration now sanction settlers who are committing violence against Palestinians in the West Bank.
Pause. I'm sorry. I have to give a little bit more detail about what Joy is saying because she's not telling the truth. This piece here, Biden to sanction Israeli settlers in the West Bank, guys, it was 4 people. You see, that's a clickbait headline from NBC News, and other networks have done this as well. Other news outlets have done it as well. Then you open up the article and you read it and you realize, oh, it was 4 people. It was 4 people. But you see how they're trying to sell it? You see how they're trying to spin it?
Do those kind of policy changes make a difference in your view to your community?
What is left of the quote-unquote Palestinian state that they now want to recognize? It has been demolished from coast to coast right now. If you look at Gaza, over 70% of the infrastructure has been decimated. And so for me, if you want to recognize anything, begin by recognizing the humanity of the Palestinian people. There should be nobody who believes that any innocent man, woman, or child should be killed. And as it pertains to the sanctions against settlers, from my understanding, it's only applying to forced settlers and non-American settlers. In fact, there are tens of thousands of radical settlers who are American citizens. Take the famous story of Jacob, who came from New York, flew over to Sheikh Jarrah, and stole a Palestinian woman's home. And he said, I quote, "If I don't steal it, somebody else will." My question to the president is, what accountability will that person have to face? What consequences would Jacob have to face?
See, she wasn't prepared because she just gave the headline, and she wasn't prepared for him to actually know the truth, for him to actually have the data and to know what really happened. So I was so glad.
People like MSNBC and Joy Reid, ain't nobody listening to them. We know they bought and paid for. You know they're going to say the company line, whatever it takes to get people to come out. But they're not dealing with these issues. And you can best believe Dearborn is not going to take no migrants. I don't care how many shelters you try to throw around there or whatever. They are going to be in lockstep within their community. That's what the black people should do.
When he called this out and he said it was actually just 4 settlers. And notice this other piece too, that there are also American settlers in the West Bank. That's another thing, that Americans can actually go to the West Bank. Israeli Americans can go to the West Bank, and they are doing the same thing. Oh, Joy, honey, it is not looking good.
And has the White House reached out to you? I mean, you are the mayor of Dearborn. You would think it would be a conversation they want to have. Have they reached out and said, you know what, come to the White House, let's have a conversation?
There has been no invitation to the White House. But what I can say is there's dialogue happening between individuals about what would a policy conversation outcome look like. And from my understanding, the only condition that I've said is I need individuals who can come to the table, who have decision-making authority, and who are open to changing course. Because if somebody wants to come to just say that they've heard from the Arab American community and use that as a talking point, I'm not here to be used in somebody's political calculation.
This young man is highly aware of what is happening in DC. Notice how he responds. You won't hear Al Sharpton say that. Jim Clyburn isn't going to say that. Eric Adams is not going to say that, although Eric Adams has been pissing people off because he complained that the Biden administration hasn't been responding to the migrant issue in New York City, but that's a whole other thing. But still, notice how firm and confident he is with his demands and what he's asking for. And I look back and I think back to some of these things, and I'm just like, man, if MLK was alive today or if Malcolm X was alive today, how would they feel about the way the Black community has just settled for whatever the Democratic Party does, just because?
They will be ashamed and disgusted that you still act like slaves on the Democratic plantation.
Because we have been conditioned that the Republican Party is so much worse. I wonder how they would feel if they were alive today. I think they would be disappointed. I'm pretty sure Malcolm would be disappointed. Pretty sure Malcolm be like, what the hell? Like, it just, we just settle for anything. Settle for anything. You think, let me say something, people. Do you think that we are always going to be the Democratic Party's meal ticket to winning? You think the Democratic Party is always going to need the African American vote in order to win? Because I don't think so. Demographics change, boo. Demographics change. And while we have just been giving our vote away to them and not making demands and not receiving concessions, they're actively out trying to recruit other demographics so that they won't have to rely on us anymore.
Facts.
But this guy is very smart.
So when we were planning this segment and we were going to talk about it, we knew people were going to talk to you. The sort of biggest question I do tend to get when I'm speaking with members of your community is, what about the alternative, Donald Trump? I mean, we don't really know what he thinks about this whole situation. He's said very little, but we do know his policies have been deeply anti-Muslim and anti-Arab.
So do you see what she just did? She did the same thing that Abby Phillips did. They all do the same thing.
She gaslighting. She gaslighting.
You can watch like 4 different networks and hear the exact same talking points. So now she tries to throw this on him, right?
It's likely that he would probably allow even more violence on the West Bank and Gaza if he was president. What do your voters think about him?
So she's basically asking this gentleman, do you want a little bit of violence or a lot of violence? But either way, the US government is going to continue to allow Israel to kill your people. Which one do you want? A little bit of violence or a lot of violence? Ay, ay, ay.
You know, I think to just use your language, you said Donald Trump would just allow more violence, meaning that President Biden allows violence as well. And so for me, I understand that Trump is a threat to American democracy, but the question should be put back into the laps of President Biden. What will you do to earn the trust and respect of your voters? I've run for office several times, and as the candidate, the onus and responsibility is on me to demonstrate why I deserve that trust and respect of the citizens that I'm trying to represent. And so that's what President Biden has to show. How will he change course? All we've seen is a volatile Middle East. All we've seen is endless bombing campaigns, and it's time to close that chapter once and for all.
This dude is on it, man. This dude is on it. He is not.
Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and
We just settle for anything. Settle for anything. You think, let me say something, people. Do you think that we are always going to?
I want to address a question. She said, "What? How Trump had changed directions with the way it's going over there? What's going to be left in 9 months at the pace that they're going over there in Gaza? Think about it. If every day bombing, what's going to be left in 9 months to even talk about?"
Be the Democratic Party's meal ticket to winning? You think the Democratic Party is always going to need the African American vote in order to win? Because I don't think so. Demographics change, boo.
They bringing in their new voter base now and changing demographics right now as we speak. That's what that's about.
Demographics change. And while we have just been giving our vote away to them and not making demands and not receiving concessions, they're actively out trying to recruit other demographics so that they won't have to rely on us anymore. But this guy is very smart.
So when we were planning this segment and we were going to talk about it, we knew people were going to talk to you. The sort of biggest question I do tend to get when I'm speaking with members of your community is, What about the alternative, Donald Trump? I mean, we don't really know what he would think about this whole situation. He's said very little, but we do know his policies have been deeply anti-Muslim and anti-Arab.
So do you see what she just did? She did the same thing that Abby Phillips did. They all do the same thing. What about the alternative? You can watch like 4 different networks and hear the exact same talking points. So now she tries to throw this on him, right?
Seems likely that he would probably allow even more violence on the West Bank and Gaza if he was president. What do your voters think about him?
So she's basically asking this gentleman, do you want a little bit of violence or a lot of violence? But either way, the US government is going to continue to allow Israel to kill your people. Which one do you want? A little bit of violence or a lot of violence?
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
Ay, ay, ay.
You know, I think to just use your language, you said Donald Trump would just allow more violence, meaning that President Biden allows violence as well. And so for me, I understand that Trump is a threat to American democracy, but the question should be put back into the laps of President Biden. What will you do to earn the trust and respect of your voters? I've run for office several times, and as the candidate, the onus and responsibility is on me to demonstrate why I deserve that trust and respect of the citizens that I'm trying to represent. And so that's what President Biden has to show. How will he change course? All we've seen is a volatile Middle East. All we've seen is endless bombing campaigns, and it's time to close that chapter once and for all.
This dude is on it, man. This dude is on it. He is not fooled.
I'm going to end there. Shout out to Sabby Sab out of Boston. I'm doing a reaction to her video. Again, get you a new outfit. 1-800-KICK-ASS. Also, get this book by William Cooper, Beheld a Pale Horse. It's a good book. It's a good book for these times to read. It's by William Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse. Okay, let's check out the mayor in his own words without Joy Reid trying to navigate and get clickbait.
Think about it. Democrats turning down a meeting with President Biden's national campaign manager. If that's not sending a message, I don't know what is. But after sitting down with the mayor of Dearborn, he says that is exactly the point.
You know, what do I tell my residents who have lost loved ones overseas?
Dearborn's mayor says his decision to bail on a meeting with President Biden's campaign manager reflects the sentiment of the Arab American community on the Israel-Hamas war.
This is not the time to talk about elections. This is the time to ask and demand for an immediate ceasefire.
It was all set for Friday afternoon. About a dozen local Arab American leaders, including Dearborn Mayor Abdullah Hammoud and State Representative for Dearborn, Al-Abbas Farhat.
I couldn't get myself to want to sit down with that individual.
From Biden's camp, Julie Chavez Rodriguez was supposed to lead the meeting. A source familiar.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Stop. Julie Ramirez Rodriguez. That's who they sent in to Dearborn. Who is she? The official spokesperson of the immigrants? That's a heck of a name for her to be sitting in Dearborn to talk to them. They, you know what I mean? They already refusing to talk to Biden, so you're gonna send your, you know what, y'all heard her, whatever, Ramirez something.
With the meeting tells us this was part of a tour starting last fall in key battleground states to talk election strategy with diverse groups.
Right now is a time for us to hold them accountable to the promises they made in 2020 when they said the Arab American community, the Muslim American community will have a seat at the table. And we don't have that seat right now.
This sentiment could spill over into the upcoming election. Remember, President Biden won Michigan over Trump by 154,000 votes. There are currently 300,000 Arab Americans in Michigan, according to the census. State Rep Farhat says 80% typically.
Think about those numbers. Think about those numbers. You know, they accused Trump of wanting to challenge in Michigan and in Atlanta. But you know, a lot of things that Trump said, they called him a lie. We found out that he was telling the truth. Those numbers look real suspect when you're talking about winning Michigan and you're talking about Dearborn, Detroit, you know what I'm saying? Flint, Pontiac, that area. Because we already know up north in the Upper Peninsula, the UP, none of them voted Democrat. So I don't even know how he could win this state logistically.
swing Democrat.
If you polled them, many of them will tell you this is their number one issue.
If the president's policymakers decide they want to talk ceasefire, it's a meeting the mayor would consider.
If there's a meaningful conversation to be had, where you're not just here to listen and then walk away for a photo op, we'll gladly take that conversation.
The meeting that never was actually part of a series of meetings between Biden's campaign and folks here in Michigan, specifically the Hispanic and Black communities. Reporting in Dearborn, Jessica Duknak on The Edge.
Well, hope y'all having a good morning. These politics is getting real thick. You know what I mean? And you got to put your thinking caps on and be aware, be alert at this particular time, this particular hour, because it seems that there's going to be a lot of shenanigans, you know what I mean, on top of shenanigans. So keep your head on a swivel, stay alert, keep your eyes open. Peace out of Detroit. Like, share, and subscribe.